Oh look, Bob Pancakes is saying, hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another Sims Info and Thoughts video. This one's going to be all about the big live stream they did for both the upcoming Infants updates and Growing Together. This is quite a long one. I'm going to try and summarize as much as I can, but this is a stream I actually do recommend watching it in full if you have time. This was not the My Wedding Stories live stream. This reminded me more of Eco Lifestyle, where they showed a lot more of what we're really getting with the pack, and there was quite a few things that we didn't know at all before. First, they started off with what we're getting in the base game updates, so what you're seeing here is a bunch of items that we will be getting for free, including a new bassinet, which is very much welcome. They are actually updating the newborns too. It's not all about infants, so that's really great. I was thinking they probably wouldn't do that, but they did, and there is some new clutter as well, and 3 new toys that have different sounds to them. Next, they showed off some new fencing, and with the gates, you can baby-proof them now, though it's not just specifically for the new one. You can do that with the other ones in the game too. But that doesn't mean it's impossible for them to escape. It is possible for them to break out, as was seen later on in this live stream. It is also possible to baby-proof the doors. There's also a whole bunch of cribs coming with this update, and one really interesting feature I wouldn't have thought of is the ability to convert cribs into a toddler bed, and also the other way around if you want to. So it's a way of having your furniture grow up a bit with your child. Very neat touch. One of the cribs is also portable, so you can drag that into your inventory if you'd like. So very handy if you're just going over to a relative's house, or if you're going on vacation somewhere. Yeah, if we get a hotel pack this year, that would be very useful indeed. Another surprise addition is the ability to have a science baby as a single parent with another sim, basically opening up the door for surrogate parent storytelling. And you don't have to necessarily be in a romantic relationship to do this, you just have to be at least friends. So for example, they have Eliza Pancakes having a science baby with Bella Goth. This transitions into the newborns updates, so they are going to get the full range of skin tones that the other age groups have, which is good because they only have 3 at the moment. They'll also have their proper genetic eye color at birth. It'll be possible to show off newborns to toddlers. Children and toddlers have an entertain interaction where they can just entertain the newborn. If you're bored of the same old default outfit, you're in luck because there's finally going to be more options besides the nifty knitting ones. And the newborns also react to extreme weather if left outside. Their appearance and movement have also been changed to skew younger, since they are meant to more represent the very beginning of life now. The newborn life stage is supposed to last for a shorter amount of time, while the others have been extended. Hopefully that doesn't break saves, because I remember that was a major problem when the high school years patch came out. Now it's time to age up Amelia into an infant, and there are 6 total traits: cautious, sensitive, calm, intense, wiggly, and sunny. The newborn to infant animation is really cute, just coming out of the crib and floating down on the cloud. It's just adorable. Then they take the infant in to create a sim. One thing I like that's just a nice detail is when you rotate the infant around, the back of the baby seat becomes transparent, so it doesn't block your view so much. And as you can see here, when choosing the diaper, the infant actually turns around too, so you can see a bit more of what you're choosing as well. Overall, I think the selection of clothing and hair and accessories for the infants is pretty decent. You can even have them wear glasses or a baby helmet if you want. It is just too bad that since the infants were added so late into the game's lifespan, all the previous packs before Growing Together aren't going to have anything for them unless they go back and refresh more packs, but I don't think that's happening. While still in Create a Sim, they did take the opportunity to show us more of the skin details that we're going to be getting for free in the base game. Definitely some nice details to make our Sims more realistic. I'd love to in the future see vitiligo and body freckles added. There is also a can this sim produce milk option under more details, which is another storytelling option surrounding pregnancies and children. Look at how adorable this bathing animation is for the infant. I really like this. And they revealed a new attachment mechanic that applies to both the newborns and infants, where they're in the process of just trying to gauge whether the world is a safe place for them or not. By the sounds of it, it sounds like it has to do a lot with how often their motives are taken care of. So if they're often in the red, then they're not going to have a positive attachment to their caregivers. But then if they are very well cared for, then they will have a positive attachment to them. And you can click on the infant and gauge by their moodlets how well they are taken care of. Another sign is if they are well cared for, then they're not going to cry because they are going to trust that someone is going to help them soon. But if they have negative attachment, then they're going to feel even more sad when they're in need. But it doesn't end there, because there are 3 possible reward traits that your infant can get upon aging up. Like Happy Infant, where they have formed a good bond and trust that Sims in general have good intentions. There's Top Notch, where the infant was very well cared for, meaning that they also trust their caregiver specifically. And then there's Unhappy Infant, where they are more skeptical of Sims and have a harder time trusting them. So, trust issues confirmed. I love this touch of realism. This sounds like a potentially very interesting mechanic. They promise that they have made quality of life improvements to the high chairs and that they won't be as finicky to work with. We'll see how that actually is once the update is out in the wild. But another thing that they have with infants is that they can try first baby food in these high chairs. So there's quite a number to choose from there, and the infant can end up being unsure whether they like it, or love it, or they hate it. I also love the sort of like, here comes the airplane animation when she was feeding Amelia. Singuru Morgan did mention that with Amelia not being sure about whether she liked the mashed peas or not, the cautious trait played into that, because cautious infants are slower to warm up to new experiences, locations, and Sims. Both breastfeeding and bottle feeding have existed in the game since the beginning, but now it's possible to choose the feeding preference with the upcoming update. Next thing they showed off was the peekaboo social interaction with the infants, though funny enough, Amelia did not react well to it, so it's not always a positive outcome. They wrapped up the infant segment by putting the infant in their crib, and it is possible to upgrade the crib so that they have this little mobile, as was shown in the trailer during a previous live stream, and it does help the infants fall asleep more easily. The mobiles come in 2 different themes, space and birds. I'm glad they chose birds as one of them. So yeah, that is really adorable, and there are some different lullabies that can be played. And they did confirm that it will be possible to Nift onesies for the infants if you have Nifty Knitting, so that is some really cool pack integration there. I mean, we can already do that for the newborns, we can do that for the farm animals in cottage living, so I really love how they're integrating Nifty Knitting into some of the other features they've done. They also confirmed that yes, infants can pet the dog if you have cats and dogs, and if you own Parenthood, the parenting skill does integrate with infants. There's also been a change to how different age groups interact with each other in terms of relationship gains. For example, children gain relationship faster with other children because they understand each other better, but then children won't build relationship as fast with teenagers because the teenagers won't take them as seriously. Oh, and one last thing, here's a sneak peek of the pie menu rework that's coming in the update. I already like the look of this much better than what we have now. Alright, so that covers the base game update. Now to move on to growing together. They started off in Create a Sim, and Grim Surdoi was talking about the general premise of the pack, while Morgan was going through lots of the new clothes that are in this expansion pack. Overall, I think it looks pretty cute. I mean, I'll look more deeply into it when I do my own cast overview, but yeah, liking what I'm seeing here. Wait, is that a seagull? Is that also a seagull? That would be very cool if that's the case. There are also some new features that you can access through Create a Sim, the first being Family Dynamics, and that is through the Household Relationships panel, though they can also be earned through natural gameplay. They also mentioned that the Family Dynamics can be changed through the Keepsake box, and there is a potion in the reward store if you want to get rid of certain Family Dynamics. And there was one example of a pop-up for a family dynamic later on in the live stream. In this case, it's the strict family dynamic, when it comes to Mama and Kara, a sense of order seems to abound, as the younger Sim has a deep respect for their older family member, often meeting the older Sim's high expectations. For family members with a strict family dynamic, the older Sim will ask the younger Sim to do things like cleaning more, and the younger Sim will generally avoid rebelling, though both might get more stressed overall. They also mentioned that family dynamics can affect Sims even when they are living on different lots from each other. Because, for example, if a daughter has a close family dynamic with her mother, then the mother will call the daughter more often, but if they have a distant family dynamic, then the mother won't call as often. Now here's where things start to get really interesting. The new likes and dislikes categories. There's 2 of them, and yes, now we have a cap of 15 instead of 20. So the 2 categories are sim characteristics and conversation topics. These are the 2 pillars that make up the social compatibility feature they mentioned before. So these are available from child and up, but then from teen and up, there are some that tie into romance. But these are mostly meant to be on a platonic level. With sim characteristics, they make your sim fall into various archetypes such as optimistic sims, rascals, romance enthusiasts, and spirited. So if they happen to also meet a sim that likes that same thing, then they'll have better social compatibility. But if the other sim dislikes that same category that the sim is in, then they'll have lower social compatibility. But then the question is, how do sims fall into these archetypes in the first place? There's 3 deciding factors: traits, the likes and dislikes from the activities category that we already have, and lifestyles from Snowy Escape. Yes, they remembered that feature exists. SimGuru Nova mentions that there is a ton of cross-pack compatibility because almost every single trait they've released so far falls into one of these categories. For example, with the homebody sims, even though they only mentioned the base game ones in the tooltip like loner, bookworm, or clumsy, they also integrated the socially awkward trait from high school years, as well as the laid-back aspiration trait from Island Living into that homebody sims category. It even encompasses baking from Get to Work, knitting from Nifty Knitting, and the sedentary lifestyle from Snowy Escape. Going through a few other quick examples, argumentative sims tend to quarrel often with other sims, and they have better compatibility with hot-headed, mean, or evil sims, but have less compatibility with good sims. For romance enthusiasts, they are more compatible with romantic sims, but are less compatible with non-committal sims. For some cross-pack compatibility, there's pet enthusiasts, where they're obsessed with fuzzy friends of many kinds, whether house pets or farm animals, so both cats and dogs and cottage living are integrated into this. They love and respect their animal companions and seek to treat them like any other sim. Pet enthusiasts will be more compatible with sims with traits that involve liking animals or pets, but they won't be as compatible with evil sims. Similar to how sim characteristics are like a much broader and more platonic version of romantic chemistry from The Sims 2 and The Sims 3, conversation topics are like a more broad version of interests, like we had in The Sims 1 and Sims 2. Conversation topics happen to tie in really well into the pie menu organization that's being done with the base game update. So, for example, Kara here does not like affection, so she will 99% of the time respond badly to social interactions that fall under affection. But then on the positive side, she likes deception and complaints. So if you complain about the rain to her, for example, she will respond well to that. SimGuru Nova does encourage us to give us our Sims a diverse set of likes and dislikes with this feature, so I think I will have to go back and do that for the many Sims that I have, so that socializing will be a lot more challenging and interesting. So gossiping with one Sim, for example, could go really well, but then the Sim next to them might hate it, so you gotta be really careful. Overall, this sounds very promising, and really how Sim personalities should have worked from the get-go in The Sims 4. I just hope that it won't be super buggy. They also talked about the 4 new child aspirations with growing together. They all fall under this new multi-skill category. So children can now aspire to be a slumber party animal, Playtime Captain, Mind and Body, or Creative Genius. Whereas the base game ones focused very much on skills, these are a bit more social. Now to talk a bit about the new world of San Sequoia. So there's the new world icon. I actually like it a lot. Looks very colorful and won't be mixed up with worlds like Evergreen Harbor. And there is the map. So yeah, we already knew only 12 lots. I've already kind of ranted about how disappointed I am with how small the worlds are now. The map art looks okay, I suppose, but I'm still looking forward to seeing what modders will do with it. First, we'll talk about Hopewell Hill, since that's the first place that they went to. I mean, it's pretty sure, but it still reminds me so much of Willow Creek, and I wish that the playable lots had been closer and more densely packed, so that it still would feel a bit more unique. But other than the Michelson's house being near the empty lot in this neighborhood, it's just not really doing a whole lot for me. It is nice, though, that you can walk out on the docks. There's also a landmark in this neighborhood, Old Stumpy, which is the remains of a sequoia tree, and this part really annoyed me. They went on this whole thing about how, oh, they did Moonwood Mill in Werewolves and Grimstewardoi was also the lead producer on that world, and there's no actual mill in Moonwood Mill, and how he typed up this loading screen tip that there used to be a mill there. And now it's basically the same thing again, where it's called San Sequoia, but there's only the remains of this one sequoia tree here, because apparently the whole place was deforested in the past. So that's why there aren't actual sequoia trees in the world, and it's just like, it's like they made the world and then they just kind of called it that, but I wish they had just made a lot of sequoia trees so that it wouldn't look like just yet another Willow Creek. On a more positive note though, I like Anchor Point Wharf. This feels a lot closer to what I was expecting out of a San Francisco inspired world in the first place. A lot more of an urban vibe here with reclaimed buildings and the fishing industry and all that. I really love how one of the pre-made houses has, like, one part of it is clearly the original, and then there's this expansion on the left side, so it's like to just accommodate for the expanded family. It's just a type of house that makes so much sense for a pack like growing together. There's also the movie theater rabbit hole where you can watch a movie by yourself or with friends, and there's different genres of movies and different events can happen while watching those movies. And after the end of the movie, you can get specific buffs depending on what you watched. Oh right, while they were here, they also confirmed that public changing tables are a thing. Hopefully they're for both infants and toddlers. This is something I've wanted for so long, so it makes it more realistic if I want to take my toddlers out somewhere. It's too bad they didn't also put strollers in this pack. Lastly, there is Gilbert Gardens, which is basically a big park, and it also has the new rec center venue type that was built by Lil Simsy. This appears to be the only area that you can swim in this world, and there's a crocodile that's supposed to be lurking around. I'm assuming it's just for decoration. A crocodile death would be pretty epic, but I doubt that would be in a pack like this. Jungle Adventure, sure, but they didn't do it there either. Here's a quick look at the water park that we saw in the trailer, and don't worry, you can actually use these objects in other worlds too. Working in a similar fashion to the hiking trails from Mount Komorebi and Snowy Escape, you have these signs around the world of San Sequoia that you can walk or jog or do the new power walking activity. Also, much like Snowy Escape's hiking, they occasionally get buffs related to the sights that they see, and occasionally they stop and do things like drink from their water bottle or even whip out binoculars, because I thought there was bird watching from one of the screenshots, but Simgrew Morgan confirmed to me that no, that's just one of the things that they can do while walking these trails. Too bad, I would have also liked to have that as a separate activity. Much like we've had with other recent worlds like Henford-on-Bagley and Tartosa, there is a lore interaction available. Share San Sequoia's secrets. In the case of Kyle, they didn't really get a secret, it was more just his misadventures involving Power Sip and a squirrel, but that seems to fit his personality. I'm curious to see what the other residents of this world will say. Okay, now, finally to cover the rest of the gameplay with Growing Together that I haven't gone over yet. So, another little bit about social compatibility. In the relationship panel in live mode, you can easily see how good your social compatibility is with other Sims. If there's no puzzle icon at all, then it's neutral. If there's two puzzle pieces that are fitting together, then you have good social compatibility. But if the puzzle pieces are not fitting together on the icon, that means you have bad social compatibility. Next up is Kyle. And his last name is Kyleson, so it's Kyle Kyleson. So they really pulled a Simpsons with that one, like Carl Carlson. But anyways, they get this completely random text from him. It seems like this Sim didn't even know Kyle at any point, but Kyle says, "Hey bro, it's me, your boy, Kyle. Listen, I'm coming over to your place to chill for a few days, just like old times. Doesn't sound sick? Wait, what? You don't remember me? Ha ha ha, dude, you're so funny. Seriously, never change. Hope you have some juice ready. It's gonna be lit." Well, if it's gonna be lit, how could they possibly refuse? So they did let him come over, and he brought a suitcase with him, so you are able to open and close the suitcase, but otherwise, it's just like a dresser. I was hoping there would be some inventory in there as well, so you could put in other items besides clothing. I think that would have been super handy, which is really too bad, but maybe someone can mod that. But to explain Kyle's actual purpose, he is part of the temporary stay system, where there are some sort of like story prompts that can come up and you can choose to accept them or not. Other examples include extended family coming to stay over, or a family friend going through a rough time, or an old friend crashing at your place. Not just that though, one of the things I am most excited for in this whole thing is that yes, you can arrange temporary stays on your own accord as well. So you can have another Sim stay over from 1 to 6 days. This is great because, for example, one part of my childhood that was really nice was looking forward to my relatives visiting every fall because my family is quite scattered across the globe. So now I can do this sort of thing with my own Sims. Then they spoke a little bit more about newborns, so I was confused if they just forgot to show this during the base game segment or if these two things are limited to Growing Together only, with the newborn clothing options as well as the temperaments that newborns can get, where some are just easier to care for than others. And now they actually at the same time got a quirk for one of their toddlers and for one of their infants. So the toddler got aggressive and the infant got loves being held. There's a total of 18 quirks available for infants, and there's also 18 quirks available for toddlers. And each toddler and infant that you have can discover up to 3. So it is much like what the quirks already are for cats and dogs, where they are these little characteristics that can give your Sims more personality that's unique from just what you choose out of Create a Sim. But if you want to take away the quirks or add more, there is a cheat to do that, and the same goes for milestones. Speaking of milestones, let's talk about these. They sound really cool. They actually remind me a bit more of the travel mementos in The Sims 2 Bon Voyage than the base game of Sims 2 itself, with just how they're listed and then they have little hints as to how you unlock them. So Kyle did start a fire earlier, which did cause Ron to get the first fire milestone. It is interesting too that it notes the location that it happened at too. The milestones available are different depending on the age group, and there are different categories such as first and life and social, etc. The milestones aren't just flavor text though, some actually do affect development, because with the infants, for example, a brand new infant who has not had the milestone to sit up yet won't be able to explore food yet in the high chair. But then if they do have that, then they can. Adults, for example, can get milestones like reaching the top of their career, getting a job, having a baby, falling in love, getting married, and in the case of getting married, they actually get a marriage certificate now, so that is a really nice touch. Sims may also occasionally reflect on milestones. For example, this funny incident of the first bladder failure. This happened to Ron at his house, and he's still living at this same house. So there is a chance, like if he's just waking up or even taking a bath like he is right now, he may remember that and get an embarrassed buff over it. One other very cool milestone is made a self-discovery, and this can enable your sim to get up to 3 extra traits on top of the 3 that you may have already given them in Create a Sim. So this sim did gain the ambitious trait, and Grimsrudoy also mentioned that you can have traits replace existing ones. For example, if your sim starts off being a slob, but you make them really neat, then you may get a pop-up saying, hey, you're playing more like a neat sim, would you like the neat trait to take the place of the slob trait? So just some really interesting character development and, well, growing that can happen with this expansion pack. Next, they showed off the Midlife Crisis feature. So there are 4 different types of a midlife crisis you can get. Ron's case is desire for adventure. So he wants to do things like hunt for treasures, travel to 3 unique places, take an outdoor nap, and work on a steampunk flying thingamajig. If you start to complete these goals, you'll get a shorter midlife crisis and possibly a beneficial moodlet. Now, this next feature was a complete surprise to me. Workplace rivalries can happen now, so Ron unfortunately has one with Bella Goth. Always getting in the way, a work rival blocks the path to promotion. So you can choose to resolve this if you like, but there's also sabotage that can happen. So there's this one example that came up with Ron stuffing an old Harvest Fest skeleton decoration into Bella's office drawer. When Bella opened the drawer, they practically spun full circle around screaming. Nobody else in the office was overly pleased with the distracting ruckus. So Ron calls that a double win. They also added a burnout system where if you're going too hard on a certain skill or a career, then your sim may tell you that they need a break. And there's even the possibility of your sim getting laid off due to company restructuring. And if that does happen to your sim, then your friends actually may come to support you, and you can look for a job knowing that you've been laid off, though I'm not sure exactly how that particular thing is going to be different from normal. But that is really neat that they are focusing on some drama, not just all the positive aspects of life, some negative ones too. Another really cool aspect, I completely missed this the first time around, I'm really glad I'm doing this video now, is the confidence system. This is exclusive to children, so they can have a neutral, low, or high confidence, and this is a trait that persists throughout their childhood. And there are various things that can happen in the game that can decrease or increase it. For example, a parent could criticize the child's lack of social growth and it can make it negative, or do the opposite, praise the social growth and make the confidence higher. But there's also other things like falling off the monkey bars at the playground that can reduce the confidence. When a child ages up with low or high confidence, then they can actually get low or high self-esteem as a trait when they're a teenager. After showing off the piano, which thankfully does come in plain swatches and only takes up 4 slots instead of 6, they talked about what the child skills rework is. So the child skills that they've always had are called fundamentals, and they gain them at a quicker rate than before. But they can also gain certain adult skills, like knitting and video gaming and piano, but at a slower rate than an actual adult. Next we have tree houses, something that was on my personal wish list for a while, and I think overall these are an improvement over the Sims 3 version. You can actually decorate them to go with different imagination scenarios that your children can act out. Like with the child there, she is actually doing a fairy tale sort of thing right now, and so, yeah, they're just going through a few different decorations that you can do there. And you can just place all sorts of different objects on the treehouse once it is completed as well. And yes, you can woohoo in the treehouse. So you can do that. You can also sleep or nap in the little enclosure there. That's basically a rabbit hole. And yeah, there's some debug upgrades that they're doing, but you can build these through actual gameplay. And you can, of course, change the color of the lights on the treehouse as well. You can also add a fire pole on the back of it. Just watch, they're probably going to reuse that for a firefighter career sometime down the line. If you're unsure exactly which furnishings can be placed on a treehouse, go into build mode and start typing placeable, and then yeah, you can see placeable on treehouse can come up for all these different categories, so that is very useful. Oh yes, and there are admission rules, so you can have it be kids only, no adults allowed, or even just make it for teens. You could just have a teen with a treehouse. Next, we gotta talk about the bikes. Finally, children can ride bikes in The Sims 4, and they have to learn how to do it first. They're not able to just immediately get on the bike and go wherever they want, so they'll just have to kind of ride around in circles at first, or they can have an adult help them out. But yeah, that also builds the motor skill, which is pretty nice. And Grimsru Doi mentioned there's 6 different bikes! What? I thought there was gonna be only one, so that's pretty interesting. They even have upgrades like the Aquazip did in Island Living, such as a horn and a noisemaker that changes the sound effect that plays when the bike is moving. While riding a bike, children can also have a chance of hitting their head and losing a tooth because of it. So yeah, they actually ended up showing that not while riding the bike, but there you go. They can wiggle it or just pull it out entirely. After that, you can click on the bed to place a tooth under pillow and sleep, and then afterwards, you'll get a milestone when you wake up, alongside some simoleons, as well as a Tooth Fairy certificate. Interesting, a certificate for tooth fairies. But I guess then it's not called the Tooth Berry or the Molar Bear like they were trying to do with that poll, so I'm not sure what that was all about. The keepsake box, so basically you are able to store things in there so you can kind of build up your family history, and when you have it assigned to an elder and the elder is close enough to another family member, it's possible to pass that keepsake box down. You can also change up the family dynamics through the ponder the meaning of family interaction on the box, so that is also really neat. On a somewhat related note, they also showed off friendship bracelets, so you do have to craft them first, and you can only exchange them with one friend at a time. So they did show Kara giving the grandmother a friendship bracelet and doing this special bracelet bump interaction that becomes unlocked because of that. But if Kara did that in front of her other friends, they can get jealous of that interaction. So that's a really nice touch. But also, you can demand the friendship bracelet back. So she actually did have the grandmother do that. It made Kara feel hurt, and the family dynamic changed, so some consequences there. They confirmed the 3 event types, slumber party, baby shower, and family reunion, but they didn't have time to show any of these off, unfortunately. But they did manage to briefly show the reward that you get for the family reunion event, which is a family collage. So you can just slot all these different photographs into the different frames there. So that's a neat little thing you can do. Jumping ahead to the Rec Center segment, they did show off the puzzles, which are even better than I expected, because not only are there all these presets, but kind of like the paint from reference feature, you can take a photograph and then make that the puzzle. That is so neat. When it's done, you can even hang it on the wall, though if someone steals a piece, you can still go and hang it up anyway. And we're finally done after many hours. So I really appreciate the support on this video if you chose to watch this, because I know there are other simmers out there who somehow get these types of videos out lightning quick, but that's not me. I wanted to take a real comprehensive look at all this, and this live stream was very long. And I think I am really excited for this expansion pack now. Like, I'm still a bit worried about the bugginess of it all, especially after how last year went. But if this lands, this is going to bring, I think, the sort of personality depth that The Sims 4 needed from the very beginning. But with that, that wraps up another Sims Info and Thoughts video, so feel free to let me know your thoughts about Growing Together's live stream in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!